Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to the final session of today's debates and the penultimate round of debates for Region 4 debates, sorry. I'm sure you would agree that we've been treated to some excellent debates this morning, and we look forward to more in this session as we continue to make our way through the first round of the Region 4 debates. Our esteemed judges for this session are Miss Anisha Mohammed, Chief Judge. She is an advocate for women's rights and is passionate about education and democratic rights and principles. She currently serves as the director of the Guyana Learning Channel at the Ministry of Education. She also serves on the Board of Governors at the Westminster Secondary School and the Board of Directors at the National Library. She has over 11 years of experience in the privatized communications sector and has held several prominent roles, including Chief Executive Officer before transitioning to public service in 2020. Our next judge this afternoon is Dr. Jermaine Hatton. He's a medical doctor and a University of Guyana lecturer in the School of Medicine. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Medical Technology and a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery degree from the University of Guyana and a Master's degree in International Public Health from Liverpool University. Jermaine is active in the Guyana Youth Parliament and in 2019 was awarded the Speaker's Award for his exceptional performance, and in 2020 represented Guyana at the Commonwealth Youth Parliament. In 2022, he was awarded the Council of the University of Guyana Prize for the student that has made the greatest contribution to the university in other areas of university life. Our final judge is Mr. Stefan Gabriel. Stefan is a seasoned youth and community development practitioner who is known for significant contributions to the Youth Parliament as an outstanding performer and dedicated member for 10 years. His expertise encompasses a broad range of areas, including youth and community development, international and public affairs, governance, and management. Stefan is also a director on the Board of Governors of the Guyana Responsible Parenthood Association, and he's a lead consultant of Reminiscent Events and Consulting Services and was coordinator of Linden Town Week 2024. Our teams this afternoon. The proposing team for this debate is the University of Guyana African Cultural Association. Founded in October 2023 by Moses Rover and Akeem Stoby, the University of Guyana African Cultural Association is a vibrant force dedicated to celebrating and preserving African heritage on campus. With its mission, honoring our roots, shaping our destiny, the association fosters cultural awareness, community engagement, and academic discourse, empowering students to embrace their identity. Under the leadership of 2024-2025 President Daniel McCalmont, the association organizes engaging events, promotes artistic expression, and ensures the rich tapestry of African traditions continue to thrive at the University of Guyana. Their first speaker this afternoon is Miss Naomi Watson, 17 years old from East Ruimveldt, Greater Georgetown. Their second speaker, Mr. Nathan Prince, 24 years old from Covent Garden, East Bank, Demerara. Their third speaker, Miss Tassie Paul, 17 years old from Underneming, West Coast, Berbice. The opposing team this afternoon is the Helpful Hands Youth Group. This youth group was established in 2019 and is now led by its founder, Mr. Tyrell Davis, as Vice President, and Mr. Andrew King as Secretary. This group considers itself a compassionate community dedicated to making a positive impact. The mission revolves around helping young boys and girls in orphanages and hospitals through volunteer work, fostering a sense of belonging and hope. The key focus areas of this group include peer counseling, career guidance, and mental health awareness. The motto, Empathy in Action, Hope in Service, encapsulates group members' commitment to transforming compassion into meaningful actions. Their first speaker is Miss Kezia McLeod, 21 years old from North Sophia, Georgetown. Their second speaker, Mr. John Eugene, 23 years old from Sandford Village, West Kanji, Berbice. And their third speaker, Mr. Nicholas Stankar, 22 years old from Prashad Nagar, Georgetown. Our moot this afternoon. Guyana's regional administration should have greater autonomy in resource allocation. I now declare this debate open and I call on the first speaker of the proposition, Ms. Naomi Watson, coming from the University of Guyana African Cultural Association Youth Group, to make her presentation.
Greetings, sagacious judges, worthy opponents, and all other parties present. Today, I, Naomi Watson, rise as the first speaker of the proposition, alongside Mr. Prince and Ms. Paul, in full support of the moot. Guyana's regional administration should have greater autonomy in resource allocation. One can eat an elephant only if he learns to cut it into small pieces. So, allow me to dissect the moot and offer definitions of the key terms. According to Guyana's Local Democratic Organs Act of 1980, a regional administration refers to the leadership of the 10 administrative regions. The Oxford Dictionary defines greater as an increase in size, importance, or degree. Autonomy is the condition or right of a state to manage its affairs. A resource constitutes reserves of money, materials, or any asset which can be drawn on when necessary. Finally, allocation, the action of setting aside or designating something as being the special share or responsibility of a particular person or body. Considering the definition of the pertinent terms, the moot now reads, Guyana's regional leadership should have an increase in authority to manage its affairs in the allocation of assets. Honorable judges, I will scrutinize the current system and examine its problems. Thereafter, my second speaker will enlighten you on the impacts of decentralized power from the national to local level. And lastly, my third speaker will conclude our team's argument by providing concrete evidence of how mismanagement and bureaucracy hinder development. Currently, resource allocation decisions are made by the central authority, aka the big boys in big chairs. Regional administrations must navigate layers of approvals, submit lengthy applications, and endure long waits for funding. This centralized process, established under Guyana's Procurement Act of 2003, causes delays, leading to frustration, inefficiency, and the inability to address local needs promptly. Madam Moderator, just imagine, Shelton, a small community needing urgent repairs to a school. Under the current system, they must wait for approval from a distant office rather than having the regional administration act swiftly. Can you imagine, just 2 weeks ago, an article published by the Guyana Business Journal supported this claim, stating the country's economic and political power historically concentrated in Georgetown, leaving hinterland regions underdeveloped. To illustrate this issue, let's zoom in and bring it a little closer to home. Region 4, which includes the capital city of Georgetown. At every corner, there's much needed billion-dollar enhancement on the way. While this seems logical due to its economic significance and population density, how can we justify such a large allocation when other regions are lacking in essential services and infrastructure? For example, Region 1, which is less established, has not received the same level of investment, leading to a widening gap in development. In October 2019, then Region 1 Chairman Brentel Ashley reported with the Guyana Standard an economic slow in the area due to the snail-like implementation of budgeted projects, stating that less than 50% of these projects had been completed or even started in the latter quarter of the year. Under this current system, we are leaving our brothers and sisters behind. Constantly trying to elevate those already at the top is a losing game. Learned opposition. How many of you can name the chairman of the very region you stand? Exactly. You may ask how this is relevant, but think about it. How often do we see people turning to the highest offices in the country for help? Why must this be their first resort as if there aren't regional chairmen or someone much more accessible? This is because they're essentially rendered powerless in the eyes of the people. If this is the sign that we need to rethink and transform the current system, then I honestly don't know what is. The opposition may try to paint a picture of unity and efficiency under the current system. Yes, it may be one people, one nation, one destiny, but Madam Moderator, it cannot, and I repeat, cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. With autonomy, places like these could allocate more to roads, improving mining access, agriculture, and trade, contributing greatly to the economy. Regions like Linden with abundant resources like bauxite hold immense potential for sustainable economic growth. Attentive listeners, before I bid you all adieu, I leave you with this: control versus collaboration. The facts are here before us. Open your eyes and see the truth. To empower our regions with the autonomy they deserve, the resources they need, and the freedom to innovate and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Naomi. We will now have the first speaker of the opposition, Ms. Kezia McLeod, representing the Helpful Hands Youth Group.
Moderator, honorable judges, alert timekeeper, esteemed opponents, and valued audience. We stand today to strongly oppose the motion that Guyana's regional administration should have greater autonomy in resource allocation. Yes, while the concept of greater autonomy might be appealing in offering promising localized solution and responsiveness, a sober examination of its implementation in other nations reveal a complex reality fraught with potential pitfalls. Audience, allow me to reintroduce my team and its structure for this afternoon's debate. I, Kezia McLeod, first speaker, will identify and define key terms of the moot and begin our team's argument by highlighting the shortcomings of greater regional autonomy. My second speaker, Mr. John Eugene, will further augment our team's argument by demonstrating how self-interest over collective progress is detrimental to national development. My third speaker, Mr. Nikhil Sankar, will conclude our team's argument by examining how existing regional autonomy, the need for better governance, and resource mismanagement already impacts development. Esteemed judges, please allow me to define key terms of our moot. Greater, as defined by the Collins Dictionary, is a comparative of great, which denotes large in amount or degree. Autonomy, as per the Cambridge Dictionary, is the right of an organization, country, or region to be independent or govern itself. And allocation, simply put, is the distribution of resources. So, to redefine the moot, Guyana's regional administration should have a larger degree of self-governance over the distribution of its resources. Firstly, let's examine Article 75 of the Constitution, which states, Parliament shall provide that local democratic organs shall be anonymous and take decisions which are binding upon their agencies and institutions and upon their communities and citizens of their area, which means it already grants a degree of autonomy to its local democratic organs. So I pose a direct question to the proponents of this argument. What specific legal changes do you propose, and what empirical evidence do you have to support such changes? To bring into perspective the dangerous consequences of greater regional autonomy, let's examine Spain, particularly in Catalonia. An October 2019 BBC report details the 2017 to 2018 constitutional crisis, where Catalonia sought independence from its own nation, citing resource allocation as one of the reasons. Catalonia is one of the more wealthy and developed regions of Spain. This, of course, led to regional disparity. Their crisis demonstrates that increased regional autonomy can lead to regional segregation and political instability. The report iterates the constant negotiation and renegotiation of financial agreements, illustrating the inherent tension between regional self-determination and national development. And of course, what of our own country, Guyana, the very embodiment of united diversity? To grant excessive autonomy is to risk destroying that very diversity and unity, creating a patchwork of competing interests where wealthier regions thrive and others lag behind. Is this what we want? I don't think so. President Ali's One Guyana vision, as reported in November 2024 Guyana Chronicle article, emphasizes equal opportunity for all Guyanese. Not one, not two, but all Guyanese, stating all Guyanese, regardless of background, should have access to equal opportunities in economic prosperity, quality of healthcare, and education and infrastructure. So, I say, we stand firm in our opposition. Instead, we propose strengthening regional participation through collaborative mechanism, transparent budgeting, and enhanced accountability. This approach balances regional needs with national unity and avoid potential pitfalls. in greater regional autonomy. Let us not be swayed by the siren song of rampant regionalism, but let us anchor ourselves to the solid ground of national cohesion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kezia. We'll now have the second speaker of the proposition, Mr. Nathan Prince, representing the University of Guyana African Cultural Association Youth Group.
All protocols observed. I, Nathan Prince, stand before you as the second speaker of the proposition in full support of the motion that Guyana's regional administration should have greater autonomy in resource allocation. Respected judges, we should foster a culture of traceability and accountability, starting from the ground up. To achieve this, regional administrations can implement audits and oversight committees that liaise with the central government. Let me be clear. We are not advocating for regional administrations to operate independently of national policies and laws. Instead, we propose a partnership where regions have greater influence over their own development. Madam Moderator, permit me to examine our very own Constitution. Chapter 2, Section 13 states that our political system is based on democracy, where citizens and organizations actively participate in the decision-making process, especially in areas directly affecting their well-being. This is not just an idea, it is a legal mandate for decentralization and inclusion. Members of the audience, consider this. Regional resource allocation simplifies record keeping and traceability challenges, something that large governmental bodies already struggle with. If you don't believe me, let the numbers speak for themselves. An October 2024 newsroom report exposed multiple instances where millions of dollars in checks were unaccounted for and never refunded. But let's go deeper. Madam Moderator, Regions 1, 5, and 6 suffered a whopping $1.8 billion in losses due to government-terminated projects. That's $1.8 billion that should have built roads, schools, hospitals, but instead wasted. Where does this leave these regions? Honorable judges, in our very own national development strategy, any regional project exceeding $6 million must pass through the Central Tender Board. Now, we all know what that means. Delays, backlogs, unnecessary bureaucracy. The central government oversees 10 regions, each with distinct needs. Members of the opposition, every seed now bear the same fruit. They know their own challenges and priorities best. Madam Moderator, let me direct your attention to the Ministry of Natural Resources mission statement, which states to promote and support the expansion and diversification of the economy by facilitating responsible exploration and development of Guyana's natural resources. Doesn't this align perfectly with our vision for greater autonomy? Furthermore, the opposition may want to argue that regional administrations lack the expertise to manage resource allocation effectively. While this may be true in some cases, the solution is not centralization, but instead capacity building. For our industries to grow with resource allocation, we should focus on equity, ensuring each region receives the support it needs to thrive. It is time to empower them to become active participants of their own development, leading to a sustainable future for all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan. We'll now have the second speaker of the opposition, Mr. John Eugene, coming from the Helpful Hands Youth Group, making his presentation.
Greetings all. Picture a family with 10 children. Some are naturally gifted, born into wealth, intelligence, or talent, while others struggle, needing extra support to survive. If each child were left to fend for themselves, what would happen? The rich ones would flourish and the struggling ones would suffer. Is that the kind of Guyana we want? This is exactly what will happen if we give our regions greater autonomy in resource allocation. My first speaker has already outlined the fundamental flaws in this proposal, and as the second speaker of the opposition, I will take it a step further. If we allow each region to dictate how its resources and money should be used, national development will suffer. Let us look at Region 10. In Linden, the Department of Public Information highlighted solid waste management improvements and road rehabilitation projects executed by the Linden Town Council in 2018. Just this year, the Guyana Times reported that the Wisma Market roof rehabilitation began under the council's leadership. The National Communications Network confirmed that 3.5 billion Guyana dollars was allocated for health care in Region 10 alone. And let's talk about the two biggest projects on the way, the Linda Mabura Hill Road and the Wisma Mackenzie Bridge. Both projects are happening because of collaboration between the Region 10 RDC and the central government. The regional chairman of Region 10, Mr. Darren Adams, praised the government for this partnership. The proposition may claim that the government withholds resources from certain regions due to selfishness and favoritism, but let's deal with reality, not conspiracy theories. Guyana's regional funding comes from the national budget, which is publicly debated and scrutinized before approval. Regions are not left to suffer in silence. Collaboration exists and development happens. But what if we hand greater control to the regional administration? Then what would happen to places like Region 4? The backbone of our economy, home to the capital and majority of our population, but fewer natural resources than regions 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10. If those regions kept their wealth to themselves, where does that leave Georgetown? Are we going to watch the city crumble while other regions hoard their resources? But let's be real. Which region would willingly give up their hard-earned resources to develop Georgetown when they could build up their own backyards instead? And my opponents may say, but greater autonomy would mean better management of resources. To that I ask, better for who? Greater autonomy does not guarantee efficiency. Instead, it opens the door for regional leaders to prioritize their own interests over national development. Corruption, favoritism, and uneven progress would become the order of the day. Keen audience, the proposition may wish to cite news articles that favor their case, but even these are in most cases riddled with bias. Let us examine the Kaitro News article titled, Region 8 Remains Underdeveloped Due to the Government's Selfish Plans. Then, leader of the opposition, Mr. Granger, highlighted that the regions themselves have critical internal administrative issues. He said the Regional Democratic Council was obliged to pass a vote of no confidence against the regional executive officer for his chronic non-cooperation with the chairman and the elected councillors. Therefore, it is clear. I thank you.
Thank you very much, John. We'll now have third speaker of the proposition, Ms. Tassiel Paul, coming from the University of Guyana African Cultural Association Youth Group.
Esteemed judges, Madam Moderator, fellow debaters, and valued audience, a good afternoon to you all. Today, I, the third speaker, will conclude my team's argument in full agreement with the moot. Guyana's regional administrations should have greater autonomy in resource allocation. Today, we stand at a critical juncture in Guyana's development. For too long, this centralized system of resource allocation has stifled innovation, ignored local needs, and hindered development. The time for change is now. Ladies and gentlemen, Centralized financial control breeds mismanagement, not efficiency. Distance from local realities leads to misallocation. Bureaucratic complexity fuels extortion, and reduced accountability allows financial improprieties to go unchecked. Madam Moderator, the Audit Office of Guyana's 2023 report exposed multiple breaches in the Procurement Act and significant delay. This report presented in the National Assembly flagged violations in contracts involving the Guyana Defense Force, the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, and Public Works. Additionally, 752 contracts totaling $47.4 billion were examined, revealing $299.1 million in overpayments, none of which fell under the regional administrations, but rather the national ministries. This proves that the current centralized system disregards establishment procedures, failing to ensure transparency and the value for money. Members of the opposition, can we afford to maintain a system that perpetuates such negligence? I think not. Falcock just crow for day clean, but the sun still got to rise. We can talk about reform and change all we want, but unless we take action, and I mean real action, nothing will change. Honorable judges, if you've looked at Article 74, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, you would know that it mandates local democratic organs to ensure efficient management and development. Yet the opposition suggests that these leaders can't manage their own budgets. Telling them they aren't capable, it's like telling a grown man he still needs permission to spend his own paycheck. At some point, it's just insulting. Furthermore, the opposition may argue that local expertise is lacking, but decentralization doesn't take away power. It empowers communities. One Dottejersville Dam. Small, steady steps in regional governance will create long-term progress. True unity comes from inclusion, not centralized control. Madam Moderator, let's examine healthcare in Region 2, which has the highest neonatal mortality rate in the country, over half, which is 54%, according to Health in the Americas on October 1st, 2024. Long distances to care, staff shortages, and limited specialized services put lives at risk. Will the opposition try to dismiss this alarming information, or will they finally acknowledge the urgency for change? Esteemed judges, we have proven the failures in the centralized control. Our first speaker highlighted the inefficiencies in the current system. My second speaker demonstrated the benefits of shifting power to local governance. And I provided the clear evidence of how mismanagement and bureaucracy can stifle development. History has shown us that centralized power benefits the few at the expense of many. If we want a Guyana where resources serve the people, not political agendas, the solution is clear. We must empower our regions. I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Tassiel. We'll now have the third speaker of the opposition, Mr. Nikhil Sankar, representing the Helpful Hands Youth Group.
Greetings, everyone. So today I'm going to ground our discussions not within rhetoric, but within reality. The reality which we must underscore here today. We've been arguing for or against this very autonomy when in fact it already exists. Let us begin. In regions 5 and 6, the evidence is clear as day. I see in the Kaiser News in 2024. Region 5 RDC allocated $54 million to rehabilitate 9 health centers, inclusive of Rosignol, inclusive of Bushlot, inclusive of Litchfield, as part of expanding and upgrading services. We can go to Region 6, where the DPI reported in June 2023, the RDC signed contracts totaling $2 billion Guyana dollars for road rehabilitation in areas like Pepper Street, areas like 8th Street. Meanwhile, the Guyana Times even pointed to the New Amsterdam Town Council actually crafting a $244 million budget for market works. My friends, this is autonomy on full display. Let's turn the page now and get a bit more personal. Region 4, my region, inclusive of the city which I call home. Now, Article 75 of the Constitution actually empowers the mayor and city council to fulfill their duties to the citizens. However, time and again, they have been flagged for failing to fulfill their mandate. Let me take you to a Newsroom 2024 article where the council actually approved an 18% salary increase for themselves. Now, let's match it up. Let's match up the priorities here. What did the Auditor General Deodat Sharma say in 2021 in the Guyana Times article? He said, Sharma noted that the best option may be to start over. Let me give you the man's quote. Close the books, open new books, start afresh. Listen, my friend on the other side mentioned it's not good to control people on how they spend, but listen, if accountability is the issue, then where is the audit? If autonomy is not an issue, then where are the results? The Demerara Waves even further pointed to this in 2024, where they passed a motion reducing rates and taxes, property taxes for political parties. They called it, institutional rates policy. But let's put these actions into perspective. City Councillor Alfonso de Armas wrote in the Starbrook News in September 2024. He said the City Hall budgeted $299.3 million for capital expenses. We know what this is, capital expenses, drainage, garbage collection, market facilities. However, in a follow-up article in November 2024, here's what the man said, the councillor said, City Hall's financial reports show nothing has been spent on capital investments. Zero. What's going in is literally not even coming out. My friends, these are all core services. Is this not autonomy on full display? Do we remember when the Starbrook News even reported that the mayor boycotted in 2022 the president's cleanup campaign? My friends, the issue is not autonomy. The issue is greater governance needed. Let us chart a course, placing patriotism above partisanship. We can craft a new way forward. Let us remember the fighting words of Billy Pilgrim's timeless song. Let us cooperate for Guyana. Let us cooperate for our land. Let us resolve to fight together. See we do it right together. Can we do it? Yes, we can. For the country, for our children, for those generations yet to come. I thank you once again.
Thank you, Nikhil. At this time, we will allow the teams 5 minutes to prepare their rebuttals. I'll now ask the Public Relations Officer of the Parliament Office, Mr. Yannick December, to take us through the rules of the competition. Over to you, Yannick.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The rules of the Speaker's Regional Youth Debating Competition 2025 are as follows. Participants must be present at least 10 minutes before the commencement of the debate. Lateness without reasonable cause will result in automatic disqualification. Each team should consist of 3 substantive debaters and at least 1 alternate debater. Once a team has started the competition, no member shall be replaced. Notice of the unavailability of a member or alternate must be communicated to the Parliament Office at least 48 hours before the team's scheduled debate. Failure to comply may result in the disqualification of the team. Each team must indicate its first, second, and third speakers at least 48 hours before the commencement of the debate. The first speaker will be the first speaker of the proposition, followed by the first speaker of the opposition, and shall alternate in this order. The time allotted to each speaker will be as follows. First speaker, 5 minutes. Second speaker, 4 minutes. Third speaker, 4 minutes. And for the rebuttal, 5 minutes. The rebuttal will be done by only the first speaker on each team. No new arguments or materials should be introduced into the rebuttal. Failure to adhere to this rule will result in the deduction of 10 points. A bell will be rung first to indicate that the speaker should commence his or her presentation. The second bell will indicate that 1 minute is remaining, and there will be a final bell when the time has elapsed. 5 points will be deducted from each speaker who does not adhere to the allotted time. In the event of technical difficulties, a speaker may be allotted additional time. This is at the discretion of the judges. Speakers may refer to notes but should not read them. 5 points will be deducted from any speaker who reads a prepared speech. Points will be awarded for reasoning and logic, originality, relevance, mechanics, articulation, attitude towards opponent, development of argument, and cohesiveness. And finally, the judges' decisions are final. Those are the rules of the Speakers Regional Youth Debating Competition 2025. To all participating teams, I say, go to your destiny. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Yannick. With today's focus being on Region 4 debates, let me remind you of the results of this morning's session. In our first session at 9:30 a.m., we saw the University of Guyana International Affairs Association, UGIAA Youth Group, going up against the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement Group, with the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement Group emerging as the winning team. The best debater was adjudged Juliana Barron of the University of Guyana International Affairs Association Youth Group. In our 11 a.m. session, the Naya Foundation Youth Group contended against the Next Generation of Diplomats Youth Group. Resulting from that matchup, the Naya Foundation Youth Group was adjudged the winning team, with Moses Williams of the Naya Foundation being adjudged best debater. Congratulations to these teams and congratulations to the best debaters. They've now moved on to the second round of the Region 4 debates. On Friday, March 28th at 9:30, we will conclude the final debates for round 1 of the Region 4 debates. However, this year, only one team has registered from Region 5 in the Speakers Regional Youth Debating Competition, and that team is the Bijeville Secondary School Youth Group, which automatically qualifies them into the Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. Congratulations to all the teams that have made it through the competition thus far. Our timekeeper has indicated that there is 20 seconds more before we will receive the rebuttals from our team. Let me remind you, our teams today, we have our current defending champions, the Helpful Hands Youth Group, going up against the University of Guyana African Cultural Association. And that's time. At this time, we'll have Ms. Kezia McLeod from the Helpful Hands Youth Group presenting her team's rebuttal.
One people, one nation, one destiny is a sentiment we know all too well, or to be more concise, one Guyana. Not fragments of a whole driven by individualistic ideology, but a united front standing on common interests. What interest might that be? Why? The development of our nation, of course, as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, I rise again as first speaker to firmly oppose greater autonomy in resource allocation. The proposition stood before you, one after the other, painting a rosy picture of independent regions while blatantly ignoring the looming consequences of such endeavor. We, the opposition, are not denying the importance of regional autonomy in resource allocation. However, while the proposition stands on greater autonomy, isn't lowering one on paper, it lacks the evidence to be realistic. Honorable judges, please allow me to illustrate just why the proposition's argument crumbles under scrutiny. Firstly, the first speaker of the proposition highlights that Region 1 is a less developed region than Region 4 and notes the snail-like implementation of projects within the region. However, highlighted in our presentation, a certain level of power already exists according to Article 75. So, once the funds are already allocated for these projects, then how is the central government still being blamed for the speed in which they are executed? I think this should better be taken up with REOs. Wouldn't you agree? And of course, also stated by the first speaker, they also emphasize that one size cannot fit all. And agree with this approach. They cited Linden has an abundance of resources that will allow them to develop greater, which, of course, as mentioned in my presentation, wealthier regions will thrive while others are left behind. So, even though these regions can, of course, maintain their own resources without the right supervision, there will be mismanagement. The second speaker highlights that any regional project exceeding 6 million must pass through the Central Tender Board and describe it as a flawed approach. I then wish to ask, is the proposition suggesting a state of anarchy where these regional administration do what they please and allocate money to who or wherever they desire? In that case, we should elect a president and prime minister for each region as well. Let us remember that there is still and will always be a need for central government, and we must shun this preposterous ideal, clearly led by the propagandists. Oh, my mistake. The proposition. To quote my second speaker, collaboration exists and development happens. We, the opposition, have not said anything about centralizing the resources allocation. This debate is not about centralizing the resource allocation process. It is about justifying the need for greater resource autonomy, a justification that I have still yet to see from the proposition. You have not yet told us what specific legal changes is it that you are asking for, and what evidence do you have to prove it? Where is your evidence? To sum up, while regional autonomy is important, greater regional autonomy in resource allocation is, to put it plainly, irresponsible and completely unnecessary. It has the potential to undermine national development goals and exacerbate existing inequalities. Furthermore, there is risk for inconsistency in delivery of services, such as healthcare and education, and of course, the implication of mismanagement and corruption from regional incapacities. Sagacious judges, let's not succumb to the allure of individual satisfaction, but rather remain grounded in our pursuit of national unity and balanced development. We advocate for a system where regional input is valued, where collaboration is paramount, and where the central government remains the guardian of equitable resource allocation. In other words, if it ain't broken, why try fixing it? Thank you.
Thank you, Kezia. We'll now have Miss Naomi Watson of the University of Guyana African Cultural Association Youth Group presenting her team's rebuttal.
Ladies and gentlemen, I rise once again as first speaker of the proposition to defend my team's stance on the moot and to debunk the ludicrous and unscrupulous claims of the opposition that, just as we predicted, push the notion of one Guyana when the facts state otherwise. While the opposition has offered their views, they have failed to address the critical shortcomings of the current system that my proposition has tastefully laid out with evidence to support. Delays, inefficiencies, and inequality. It seems we are all looking at the same creature. It acts, quacks, and looks like the duck, but the proposition stands here trying to convince us it's a chicken. Wise audience, do not be deceived by their big words and exaggerated theatrics. These antics are to cover the fact that they know they're grasping at straws. Although we must show our appreciation for their efforts, they have completely misinterpreted the moot and skewed it to fit their view. The first speaker of the opposition stated that a city in Spain went for independence and later was unstable. Might I remind you that the key word is greater, not full autonomy. We still propose partnership and cooperation with the government. It is essential. But additionally, we are not advocating for the full dissolution of the central government or for regional authorities to have full control. As a key term to this discourse, to educate the opposition once again, greater, as defined by the Oxford Dictionary, is an increase in size, importance, or degree. The first speaker also mentioned that we are trying to achieve full control. However, this concern overlooks that decentralization actually fosters unity through inclusion. As our third speaker powerfully stated, true unity comes from inclusion, not centralized control. By granting regions greater autonomy, we can ensure that regions' needs are met while still being part of the larger national framework. This fear is unfounded as it has no ground for manifestation. Regions working together to manage their resources will only strengthen national unity, not weaken it. The second speaker of the opposition spoke of selfishness, corruption, and favoritism among the regions. But in the first place, my third speaker has addressed this, stating that reduced accountability as under the system allows for financial improprieties to go unchecked. With our regions in control, it allows for greater and pinpointed scrutiny. The $1.8 billion loss in government terminated projects that my second speaker made mention of. Or what about the 752 contracts totaling $47.4 billion in overpayments as highlighted by the third speaker? Is that not true mismanagement? Does this not go against their point? And in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the opposition's arguments have been thoroughly examined and debunked. Despite their attempts to defend an ineffective centralized system, it is clear from the beginning that they are confused. The facts speak for themselves. It is time for Guyana to embrace a more flexible, inclusive approach to governance that will benefit all of our regions equally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now allow the judges a few moments to tabulate their scores. And at this time, I would just like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us and to let you know that this is our 5th year of this Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. We started out as a national competition, and that was in 2021, where we would have seen 16 teams competing. And in 2023, we moved from just being a national competition to being a regional competition, allowing persons from all across the administrative regions of Guyana to participate regionally and then moving on to nationally. So from 2023, we've done that. And this year, we have set to have one of the largest amount of teams participating. So in 2021, we had 16 teams. And in 2025, we are set to have 50 teams participating. So we truly have grown from strength to strength. I'd like to thank some of our partners along the way: GlobeSpan, Guyana TV, NCN, and NSERD for always ensuring that our debates were broadcasted on their channels. And we would also like to recognize some of the other stakeholders, such as the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, the Ministry of Education, the regional authorities, the regional executive officers, the regional education officers, and the judges. The judges are quite important to this competition, and they always give so freely of their time, and they're always here for us, our mentors, the parents, the guardians, the teachers, and of course, our very own members of parliament. And a special thank you to all of the staff that works very hard behind the scenes to come up with all the topics and ensure that this debate runs very smoothly. The judges have indicated they're ready. So I will ask Judge Gabriel to give his comments, followed by Dr. Hatton and Ms. Mohammed.
So thank you, everybody, and thanks to the Parliament Office for having us here. I have 3 points. I'll be really quick with them. I think that there needed to be a lot more evidence, country-specific data or region-specific data regarding how you are defending your topic. I heard it once, and I think one person really put that information out there, evidence out there for us to better understand as judges. Second thing is that it seems as though you're reading your speeches, you're understanding your speeches, but you're cramming your speeches. So when you come here to present, there's a lack of persuasion for the judges to understand, for the judges to be convinced. Because some of us are going to come in here with some preconceived notions, and then it is your choice or your job to try to break down those preconceived notions so that we could take your side or we can allocate scores towards you a little better. And the third is that we keep talking about the resources, and we're talking about having each region or having a decentralization of who manages or how these resources are managed. We cannot say or talk about the resources that are currently present within the region itself, but what we are to do is to talk about how how the resources outside of those regions are allocated to the regions, and the bodies, the regional bodies or the local government bodies that are within that region are able to manage those. So when you learn about, or when you go in more in depth about decentralization, you'll understand that a little more. But I heard a lot of people saying, managing the resources that are present within the town, but it's not just that, it's managing the monies that are coming into the town and all the other things, the infrastructure and everything else that is coming there for you to utilize or have your residents or citizens utilize it. And key point to look at is, look at Guyana as Guyana having these regions, and then you're looking at the US that has states. Right? So try to make a comparison between countries so that we could either see the benefits or see the cons, right? But thank you so much. The presentations were fair.
Thank you very much. What I like about the space, every time the speakers group reach out to me to come to judges debate, I like the opportunity it presents for young people. And today I must commend both sides. The trainers or the mentors to both sides are former youth parliamentarians. So we must congratulate that our youth parliamentarians who we have nurtured are now turning up and bringing out new leaders in the people, in the groups that they oversee. So congratulations there. I really like that aspect of it. Today I came here with the expectation that I will be thrilled. And I will say I was thrilled. Last year I made a statement that said, this is the team to beat. And today I will say, this is the team, whoever wins here today, it's their competition to lose. With that said, what I would add to that is say that you have to be very careful in how you put speakers to speak. Who is your first speaker? Who is your second speaker? Who's the third speaker? It should not be based on the crowd's favorite. It should be based on the individual person's ability to do what first, second, and third speaker has to do. So we had one side of the debate today that had a thorough plan laid out nicely, and then the third speaker came and wrapped it up. And on another side, we had excellent speakers, yes, but they did not do what the element of the debate required the first, second, and third speaker to do. And as a result of that, we have the results we have. For the team moving forward, it's your competition now to lose. Go forth with your destiny.
Good afternoon. I came here, I received the moot yesterday afternoon, and I came here with the expectation of hearing an argument that would support two acts in Guyana, the Local Government Act and the Local Organs Democratic Act. And those acts were not spoken about here. And what those acts says is that the regional bodies is governed by 10 RDCs, 6 municipalities, and 65 NDCs. That by itself is facts that were not presented today. We're talking about regional, the moot today is, 1 second. Guyana's regional administration should have greater autonomy in resource allocation. And I was very, very disappointed that no team spoke about what the regional administration is, what composite that makes up, and how that act supports local government. And we're all familiar here. I'm sure all of you are of age to be familiar with the local government elections. Those things were not mentioned, and those are important things, especially for a topic of this nature. And I'm emphasizing that here today because a lot of persons are not aware of the local government election and the Local Government Act and how the regional bodies function. And those were important points to bring to today's debate. The third speaker of the proposition mentioned a section in the Constitution that spoke about the local democratic organs, but she didn't refer to the act. I was hoping for someone to speak about the act that gave specific to those functionalities of RDCs and NDCs. There's also 75 Amerindian village councils as well. Those arguments and having that presented today would have been beautiful to hear how that would have been defended. Nevertheless, everyone did exceptionally good today. But remember, like my colleagues mentioned, your speaker allocation, especially when practicing for debates, is very, very important because you have to make sure that your argument ties in with each other. There was a disconnect with one particular team that caused that team today's debate. So based on my scores, the proposition has 208.3 and the opposition 197.3. Congratulations to the team that is moving forward. I hope you make note of the comments of today and you bring that with a better plan in mind for your next debate. Thank you. Sorry. The best speaker of today goes to Ms. Tasael Paul from the proposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, judges, and congratulations to the winning team and best debater. This brings us to the end of today's debates. We thank you, our viewers, for staying with us throughout it all. Thanks to our judges, thanks to our staff, and special thanks to our debaters. We will see you on Friday at the usual times, 9:30, 11, and 2 p.m. as we conclude round 1 of Region 4 debates and commence round 1 of Region 6 debates. Goodbye.